Hello, YouTube. This is Bub's Comics coming at you with the No Faces Comic Chat. With me, as always, we have Metarog. Roger, say hi, Roger.
Greetings, everyone. Great to be here again.
And with us, as always, we have DS Comics. Say hello, everyone. Oh, all right. Well, I guess DS is mad at us. He's not talking to us today. That's all right. We'll get by without him. No, he had someplace else to be. He is in an undisclosed location. He's got to do his various prep work for his Area 51 raid. I mean, well, he's busy. Basically, is what he said. So in the chat already. Oh, and tonight we are. What are we tonight, Roger?
We're four-color Fanatics.
Yeah, how do you like that one?
I like it. FFF. Come on, I mean, F and F. Sure, like it. I like it.
Yeah.
That's perfect because obviously most comics are printed in 4 colors. So perfect. Very well done. If DS was here, he'd be proud of you.
Let's not go that far. We'll find out in the comments section when he gets around to watching it on the rewind. We have with us in the chat already, blowing up. Got 11 people already, according to my little counter here. We've got from heroes to icons, cooking and waiting. He says he was a little early. We had Mr. Gretzky 9966. Hey, how's it going? Glad to have you. Says hello to everyone. And we got Metarog, of course, in the chat. We've got Tony. I always mess it up. Gigliardo. That's what I'm going to go with. Or I'm not sure about the UA. That one messes with. Tony G's checking in.
Gigliardo.
I don't know. I've spent so long in New York with Italians that the one thing I know not to do is say it wrong. So I'm better off to just say, hey, Tony, than to say anything else. We got Werewolf by the lunchtime. Thanks. Hope you don't have to work tonight, but if you do, please be careful on your way there. We got Area 51. Now, that is not the same Area 51 that everyone's talking about raiding, so don't show up to his house because, the gun laws are a little different in Canada, and he's protected. We got Rayman the Silencer Man, whose fingers are probably still slightly green from all the flea market finds he does. I know when I'm digging in the flea markets, my hands, like, I can feel, who is it that calls it? It's like the fuzzy fingers. I think Centuri Stir Fry calls it the fuzzy fingers.
Fuzzy fingers, yep.
And that's, I feel it, and then I'll like touch my face. And I'll somehow know where I touch my face because I feel fuzzy spots on my face after that. So, so you got to watch that. But we're sure he's taking all the Purell precautions. We got Lady Fantastic in the house. What's good, guys? She says. I got to tell you, one of my favorite things, Roger, about the deal that you do, right? The comic roundup or the contest roundup, is finding new channels. And I don't remember how I came across Lady Fantastic, but I did. I came across Lady Fantastic, and man, I'll probably butcher this one, but silver-haired Bronze Age babe. Is that right?
You got it.
So I came across their 2 channels somehow. I think they might have just left a comment for you or something like that, but I came across their channels, and I'm absolutely loving those 2 channels right now. Super happy to have them, and I'd like to have both those ladies on the chat. So if either one of you are out there, it looks like Lady Fantastic was here. Hopefully she still is. I'd like to have you on the No Faces Comic Chat at your earliest convenience. Get a hold of us. We'll get a hold of you and all that good stuff. If you're on Instagram, I'll try and find you there. That's usually the easiest. We got Gray Man in the chat. Glad to have him. He's awesome. He puts out like 7 videos a day. So something for everyone on that channel.
Yeah, he's very prolific for sure.
We got the Comic Collectors in the house. He's been putting on a lot of videos lately too, and great stuff as well. Let's see. We got Broke Cuz of Comics. And I tell you, Broke Cuz of Comics, I mentioned him last week, I think, or maybe it was a week prior. But he does these kind of questions to the community kind of stuff, and they're fantastic. A lot of thought-provoking stuff. Great channel. Love it. Batcave Comics is in the house. Wow. That's some heavy hitters here. Glad to have you. Thank you very much. And let's see. We've got about everybody here. Did we do it? I think we did it.
Bob, you did a good job.
All right.
and let's just reiterate, everybody, sub up everybody that you don't know in this chat, because as Bub was saying, everybody's got something to contribute to this community. So if you don't know them, sub them, give them a shot.
That and channels change quite a bit too.
Yep.
Some people that I used to be sub to, I'm no longer a sub to because their channel has changed so dramatically, either away from something I'm interested in basically or whatever. And then other channels, when they first started out, a lot of times people don't even put out video content. And so a lot of that sub for sub kind of stuff, I wouldn't sub anyone back that didn't put out video content. I didn't see the point. And then they start putting out video content and I don't know about it. And it starts happening and I'm like late to the party and I'm like, this is ridiculous. This person's been commenting on my videos for months and I didn't even know that they had an active channel. So sub everybody up and you never know what you'll find, because even if they have no content or content you're not keen on right now, things change a lot. And you want to be there, you know, when the excitement bursts.
Exactly. That's part of it too. You know, I mean, that what I do is I think kind of what I started doing what you were doing, right? I was saying, well, they have no content, but what I did is I would sub them anyway, just as a courtesy. And then, like you said, every once in a while, I'd see a video, and then, you know, I would put a comment trying to inspire them, trying to motivate them to put out, because some of these people have good collections. They're just a little shy, perhaps. And all of a sudden, boom, we've gotten a pretty good amount of new channels here in the last few months. So, you know, inspire people, you know, motivate them, you know, let's grow the community. Let's the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. And I absolutely am so thankful for channels like yours and channels like JB Discovery Bay, who take time to find new channels and be kind of a nexus point for others like me to come in on those channels. I absolutely love it. It's great. I really appreciate the hard work that you guys do to bring that kind of content to us. So thank you.
No, you're certainly working. And Lady Fantastic said she is down for coming on the channel. So I am excited. I love to talk to her. I mean, I think she is super interesting.
And I've just got her subbed up on Instagram. So good deal.
All right. Oh, guess who's in the chat now?
Who is it? Not DS Comics, is it?
DS Comics.
The third leg. Oh no, I didn't even see him in the chat. I must have him still blocked. Oh no, there he is.
He's off the grid. He's on the back on the grid.
Who knows what he's doing? He might have Mrs. DS holding a coat hanger on top of an RV while they try and get some signal. Who knows what's going on? So,
wow,
that is awesome. Let's see.
Welcome, Bake the Snake, Kenny Comic Head 84, and Brady B Comics.
Yes, hashtag free Kenny, free 84, free 84. And I've been saying just parole 84. Let's see how he does on the outside for a while before we just want to unleash him on the interwebs. Let's just give him a little bit of bandwidth, just a little bit.
There you go. And everybody sub up Brady B Comics. He just did an entry for Rayman. Again, this is exactly what I'm talking about, Bub. A brand new channel. Let's get him motivated. Let's sub him up. Let's inspire him. Let's get some more content out of Brady B. I mean, this is what we're here for, to grow this community. Let's go.
I agree. And I'll tell you this, I watched that video today and I would not have had I not done what we were just talking about, because he didn't have any content prior, but I was subbed to him already. So when they started firing in, caught him. And I know a lot of people say I don't have time to watch a lot of videos, and I understand that. But if you just look at it, like if somebody said, hey, look, I'm going to give you a cable package of 5,000 channels, or I'm going to give you a cable package of 5. Well, you want the 5,000. You can scroll through. You can pick what you want to watch. You can save stuff for later. You know, it's still, and you can put notifications on your favorite channel so you never miss one of those. You know, YouTube makes it easy. So get out there, support everybody, and you'll be blessed by it, because I know I am.
That's right. Oh, we got the boy who had 7. Matt is in the house.
Man, he's been busy. Did you see his new room corner nook whatnot?
Yes, I did. Yeah, nice. Really nice. And have you seen the books that he's pumping out? Oh man,
I know.
Salivation is coming out of me whenever I see his videos.
I hear you. It's a little bit ridiculous.
Oh,
of course,
man.
I always give him a hard time on things like Instagram, because whenever he puts on his 9/8, you know, he'll go on a run of 9/8 white pages too, by the way. then all of a sudden he'll show like a, showcase whatever 22 or whatever it is, first Green Lantern, and it's like a 3.5. I'm like, dude, you're missing like 6.3, 6.4 points. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I saw that comment. You're like, let's send that to me. That doesn't belong in that pristine collection,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's send it to the low grade collectors,
And the way that I feel about it too is one of the reasons that I don't want to be a 9/8 collector, and that doesn't just go for any kind of other things. Just to be like, I want the most pristine copy ever, is because I like my collection to somewhat match, and it's almost impossible to have them matching at that level for me. So I'll keep them all collected, like any cover I have to do like some tape magic on, I'm good with that. Just keep them all. Let the outliers be the high grades. The rest just, readers. So I still get,
I look at it this way, that collectors like you and me, we have to be a lot more creative with our collections. You know what I mean? We have to be part chemist. We have to part engineer. We have to be part, conservationist, because otherwise, our paltry stuff will go to dust. Covers are coming off. Pages are getting dog-eared. We have to be much more creative. The people who get those 9.8 slabs, God bless them. You know what I mean? But man, I tell you, it is a lot of fun having to go through these comics and sort of taking care of them. They're sort of like, at this point, old friends that need a little tender love and care, and that's the way I look at them.
We got several more people in the chat here. We've got Michael Dodge showing up, man from Beantown. We had Batcave, Gretzky, Tat's Comics in the house.
Oh, Tat, man, welcome.
Yeah, Biggie Shack going, yo! He's over there somewhere creating his own intro again, I think. He gets excited. Fun stuff on his channel. And here's some people they're already jumping the boat here, getting in on the topic. So, and I was also going to say, I got a bunch of low grade, but every book I own is in Mylar. Every single book. Mm-hmm. And that's in the thousands. So I'm proud of that. And so it may be low grade, but from a distance. And if you notice, on my channel, I never apologize for glare. Never once do I say, oh, sorry about the glare here, everybody. Never once. I'm thankful for the glare. The glare helps me inspire others to collect.
Yeah, you can hide a lot of stuff with glare. Yeah.
Absolutely. I do. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
If I could wear a Mylar bag to work, I would. I get a suit made out of Mylar. It'll make me look a lot better. All right, so here we go. We got a couple people already in the chat mouthing off about the things they've missed. Man from B-Town's already wondering about Blade, and we got some people wondering about Shang-Chi. So let's get into the topic tonight. A lot of other channels have discussed this, but let's face it, they're not us. You come to hear us and not see us, and we'll talk about comics until we're blue in the face, but you won't know how blue we're at. So here's the topic for tonight. We just want to know, simply, we're going to talk about the Phase 4 Marvel MCU drop that they did at San Diego Comic-Con, telling us all the great projects they have in the works for the next couple of years. And although a lot of people have been debating over and over again about, what they like and don't like, we'll talk about that some. But also I want to talk more about the comic aspect of this. What storylines would we like to see brought to life on the big screen from these characters? What are we happy about? Some of the decisions we've already known that they made. Some of the things we're upset about. I got to say, first off, looking at that run of things that they offered, and we'll talk about each one. For instance, Blade, right? Because that was the first one mentioned in the chat, I think, from Man in Beantown. Right. Yeah. So Blade, I don't have a Tomb of Dracula 10, and I almost bought one 2 years ago when I was picking up my whole Werewolf by Night run. Mm-hmm. And I had a huge Tomb of Dracula collection that I bought in a lot, and I sold them off in order to fund the Werewolf by Night run that I was picking up. And so I kept Tomb of Dracula #1, and I kept any Werewolf by Night appearance in Tomb of Dracula, but I let the rest go. Now, I didn't have a #10, but I was only about 5 shy of that entire run. and 10 being one of them. So I could have flipped it and been like, you know what, instead I'm going to get, number 10 and put all my money towards that. But I didn't do that. And now it's more than, it was already kind of getting close to the most I would have paid for it, but now it's way more than I would have paid for it. And I think a lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah.
So do you have a Tomb of Dracula number 10?
I do not. My collection starts at 17. I have from 17 to the end. I think I'm missing one, number 48, I think. But no, I do not have a 17. I mean, I do not have a 10 or a 13, which is his second appearance.
I just laugh at the comic collector said, Bub shows his face too much now. Time to pass this show on to the faceless. I think I've shown my face a combined total of 3 times on my channel, so I guess that's too much. I don't blame them. I'm sure there's plenty of people think it's too much. Yeah, I know, right? Thanks for watching.
That's a good thing. They're paying at least, there's never any bad kind of publicity. You know what I mean? Hey, you've shown your face too much. Well, that means you're watching. I hooked you.
Yeah. So you don't have a Tomb of Dracula number 10 either.
No,
so I guess we both kind of missed that boat a little bit, you could say. It's one that I knew was going to pass me by, and I kind of just let it. You ever have a book like that? You kind of know it's going to go, and you're just like, oh, well, I'll just let it go.
Oh, yeah, all the time. Because me, I don't go for that kind of hype anyway. So,
right. So, one thing I do like about the decision to have a Blade movie is that I think a lot of people like the original Blade movie, the first one with Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, I did.
And, number 2 is okay. Number 3 is okay. But number 1's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid Marvel movie.
I'd say so.
And so, there's a lot that they could still do with the character, but and that movie doesn't really go into his origin, not the first one. So, which I like about that. I think one of the reasons that I like the movie is that it barely touches his origin. It more gives you the backstory along with a Chris Christopherson character. I forget his name.
Whistler.
Yeah, Whistler. So it more goes into just touches on the backstory and about him, but it doesn't go into this big long, I don't need to see Blade as a kid for 3 years for 30 minutes of the movie. And Marvel tends to like to do that, give a lot of backstory. So hopefully that won't be too rough. And I don't know much about the actor. I know I've seen him in a couple of things, and I think he's already in the MCU as another character. Kind of.
Yeah, he was in I think the Hunger Games, that last part. And I've seen him in 2 or 3. He's a good actor. He's a really good actor. I'm impressed by that pick there. I think he will do justice to that role because he is a good, intense kind of actor.
Cool.
I don't know where they're going to go with that. Are they going to totally just reboot it, or is this going to be some kind of continuation of, because those movies are now very old.
Hey, easy.
Hey, listen, when I say that, I'm putting my head in the guillotine. Okay. So, but all I'm saying is that I'm assuming it's a reboot. Because I don't think, what's the newest one is at least 15 years old. So I would think they're just going to start again, right?
Yeah, I would think that they're not even going to acknowledge the other ones, because when they go through their list of MCU movies, the original Blade trilogy is not present on that list.
Right.
So that leads me to believe that they're completely going to ignore the original Blade movies and just start over, which I'm fine with, because like you said, they've aged, and some of the CGI in those movies have not aged well at all. So
at the time we thought that was cutting edge,
I'm not complaining.
Yeah. Ooh, look at that blood, and look at that, that stuff flying, and now it's like, yeah. Not so good.
I don't think I have a problem either with the actual casting that they did. However, I do, when Wesley Snipes was announced as Blade before, it was a little bit more exciting because he was a known martial arts kind of guy,
Right, he was an action star.
Yeah, he was an action star already, and I kind of wish that they had done that. Pick someone who was an action star. That way, I would feel like I was walking into a big action blockbuster, as opposed to, because let's face it, almost every action movie now is a superhero movie. So you might as well. And I was kind of looking forward to that kind of a big, instead of, I don't need too many dramatic Blade scenes. Like if you remember the first couple of Blade movies, especially the second one, there's a lot of dramatic Wesley Snipes acting, and it just doesn't go over very well.
True. Yeah. There are slowdowns in the second one for sure that I was like, let's get on to it. We know where this is going. Let's get on to it. Let's go. You're going to kill the guy at the end. Let's get this moving along. Let's go. Let's get the blood flowing, figuratively and literally.
Like to welcome Night Tiger into the discussion tonight. Glad you could make it. I just want to point him out, as I think we've mentioned everybody else, and Charlton 66. That's right. Charles 66 is here as well. Want to thank you guys for joining us and being a part of the chat. So Blade, we both missed the boat on that. What else coming out? Well, let's talk about the big barefooted elephant in the room. We got
barefooted elephant. If you know elephant shoes, let me know. I've never seen one.
Well, we've got the Shang-Chi movie's been announced. Now, the casting on this I do like because he is a martial artist, so I'm excited about this. So go on, Roger. I know that you've got a ton to say about this one. I can't wait. I missed the boat on that too. I don't have a single Shang-Chi comic other than his appearances in Marvel Comics Presents, where he had some backstories in there, some supporting stories. That's the only Shang-Chi appearances I have in my entire collection. So on the flip side, we have Roger. So go take it away, right. Roger.
Well, okay. First of all, let me start by saying that I am not a Shang-Chi bandwagon guy. If you've seen my channel, he's been my favorite since the 70s. When I tell you all this, it is from years of being invested in this character. Okay. And, like the first appearance here, that initially they wanted to do a David Carradine kind of, now you have to go way back. There was a show called Kung Fu on TV starring David Carradine, and Marvel wanted to base it on that character. Okay. But they couldn't get the
bad guy though.
What was that?
Isn't he a bad guy?
No, Kane?
I mean, in the comics, isn't Shang-Chi's dad a bad guy?
Oh no, we're not talking about dad. We're talking about the Shang-Chi himself was supposed to be Kane from Kung Fu.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That character. But they couldn't Marvel and whoever owned the property couldn't get together. So they went ahead with the project, but they created their own original character. Now they did have the Sax Romer villain and supporting characters, but Shang-Chi is an original Marvel creation. Okay, so let's get that out there. All right. So I think it was Steve Englehart was the one that first started the ball rolling with this issue here, and you see Fu Manchu, which of course was from the Sax Romer novels and so forth. And so what occurred here is that they created a character that was not a superhero. And I want to emphasize that, Bub, because most of the movies that are in the Marvel universe are straight superhero movies. Okay.
Yeah.
You can say Doctor Strange perhaps is not, that's a little bit more of on a mystical realm, right? But Shang-Chi is not a superhero. Now, later on, I think you were talking about after his appearance in the early 80s, he became part of the Civil War and the Avengers and et cetera, and they kind of morphed him into more of a superhero iconoclast, right?
Okay.
But that's not who he is at his inception. As an inception, he was a character that had multiple layers. He went even beyond the third dimension. He went through a spiritual dimension. And that's what kind of really initially attracted me to him. Because back in even in the 70s, I would read every comic I could get my hands on, right? And this was just seemed so different to me. It was more cerebral. It was more involved. It was less black and white. It was a little bit more that you had to have a little bit more critical thinking skills to sort of figure out what was going on here. You had to peel back the layers of the onion, right? And to that end, I fell in love with this series, and that's why I have all his appearances until what I consider the end of Shang-Chi, which is Master Kung Fu 125. Okay, but we're talking about storylines. I think that if they want to do the character justice as conceived, they have to go back to Shang-Chi as the kind of innocent, naive, but still very powerful, misunderstood, and betrayed by his father figure. Okay, now I know that's a lot of things there, Bub, right?
Yeah,
that I'm putting out, right?
That's a lot for one movie too. If you're not going to do a full backstory and a big drama, if you're going to try and keep it all action, that's a lot for one movie.
Right, and the subtitle kind of is a little bit concerning to me because it's talking about the 10 rings, which is, I'm assuming, a reference to the Mandarin.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Legend of the 10 Rings, right? Now,
yep.
Shang-Chi, again, was not a superhero. He was not a revolutionary. The Mandarin was, as you know, primarily a Iron Man foe. So I think they're trying, because they're both from China, they're trying to maybe mesh those two worlds together. I'm not sure how that's going to work. But Shang-Chi is not a superhero. He was a pacifist. He was a philosopher. His name means, the advancing and rising of the spirit. Chang, the advancing and rising, Chi, spirit. Okay? And that was what he was about. He was on a lifelong journey, a quest to find who he was because of the lies and the treachery that his father had implanted in him, that later on he found out were not true. So he didn't know what was truth and what was fabrication. So the whole series was really a quest for truth and for spiritual fulfillment. And if they do that, I think that would make a heck of an interesting movie, because the assassins that were thrown at him were endless. Literally, probably they numbered in the thousands that his father threw at him, because his father thought he had betrayed him. And so he wanted to get rid of them, because he knew a lot about what was going on, and he couldn't. And that kind of journey, he's not trying to do anything except survive and trying to be true to his spirituality. To me, that would make a fantastic movie. A lot of action, but but he would not instigate it. He is not a killer. He is a pacifist. In fact, he tried to talk himself out of every fight. Of course, it never worked, but he tried.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that you're going to be able to. I don't want to see him get talked out of every fight or talk himself out of every fight for a 2 hour and 40-minute action movie. I'm hoping this guy comes out and kicks everybody in the face, but I guess.
Oh, he will. He will. I mean, ultimately, look at these covers. I mean, ultimately, he has to resort to that which, he abhors, and that's violence. And that's part of his dilemma, is that he is so skilled that people will automatically challenge him because of that skill. That's just the way it is. It's sort of why people climb mountains, because it's there. It's the same thing. He attracts those that are violent, and that's just what he has to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
I think it's exciting. We've talked about this on a prior chat, and I had kind of said that I didn't think that they could make a Shang-Chi movie. It's funny that they didn't put Master of Kung Fu in the title either.
Right.
I think this will be one of those that you never hear them referred to. like you'll never hear them say Master of Kung Fu, just like you never hear, Wanda called the Scarlet Witch. We'll get to that in a minute too. But that I think it'll be one of those. They don't bother to give him a real superhero type name. They just leave him as his name, which I'm okay with. But
yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that they are going to tread lightly on this one. And
I'm just concerned. Yeah. I'm just concerned, Bub. When I see that title, I'm concerned that they want to morph him into more of the formula that has worked for them. Now, I'm not saying that it might not be the best idea, right? Hold on, let me let out the dog if he's crying over here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it could be a little bit scary when they're changing what potentially could be an origin story. Now, if they don't do an origin story with this, and they maybe just mention the conflicts that he had with his father and what made him who he is, and do that kind of in a flashback kind of scenario, and then come into this is a new adventure now, and this is what we're doing, and maybe some other time we'll go back and flesh that out. Then I'm good with that, because then it's just another adventure. But if they try and change his origin too much to this whatever works for this movie, then that would worry me a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't even know if Marvel has the rights anymore to the Sax Rohmer characters. And so, we're talking about Lee Ko-woo, which was his love interest in the comics, Sir Dennis Nayland Smith, which was the MI6 front for him. We're talking about this guy here, Blackjack Tar. This guy here. I mean, there were some really rich and deep characters in this series, and I don't know that they have the rights to those characters. So maybe what they're doing is maybe the Mandarin is some kind of substitute for Fu Manchu. I'm not really sure. Obviously, nobody is, I guess, at this point. I don't think anything is leaked as far as the plot line, but
I don't think much. I mean, I think they definitely are going to have the Mandarin in it, but we don't know much more than that.
Yeah, because the Iron Man 3 was such a huge disappointment, I think, to most everybody, that was a fake Mandarin, and some other guy came in there with a totally different, no rings, a Chinese origin, no background to Iron Man. Well, they did have a background to Iron Man, but not the one in the Far East. So to me, at least, I was disappointed in that greatly.
Yeah, and I don't think that, I'm not trying to get political here, but I don't think that in today's climate, you could really cast anyone other than a person of Asian descent in that role as the Mandarin. I don't think you could do that now. I think you might have got away with it then a little bit, but I think times have changed enough that from then till now, they want this to be pretty solid, a solid offering, and hopefully a solid kung fu movie. I think that's what everyone's looking for. We're looking for some great classic kung fu action, which is already over the top. It's already as over the top as a superhero needs to be. So
I agree. But he doesn't have to have those kind of, the Master of Kung Fu series had a lot of action. All right. Even again, it did have times where it was more spy, more kind of underground, kind of everything was sort of veiled, but it had a lot of action because of the setup of Fu Manchu trying to get rid of his son. Of that it always had that kind of overarching theme. So he always had some battle to fight, whether it was spiritually or physically. He always had something that he had to do in order to survive. And the movie could show those assassins. And let me tell you, some of them are very colorful. Let me show you a few of them here. I mean, some of them were just absolutely bizarre, and others were actually, like they had this guy here who had these maces on top of his head, wrapped up on a, on a bun. All right. Very bizarre kind of things. And this is the 70s, so you're going to get a lot of kooky stuff. This is a guy I liked, Razor Fist, because he had two short blades instead. I think his hands were amputated.
Yeah, I remember him. He was in Wolverine comics too.
Yes, correct. Can you imagine fighting this guy? I mean, just one wrong move and that's it. You lost an arm or a head or a limb or more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he fought like the sumo guy. I remember he got this robot here that, it was just an endless array of all kinds of assassins, ninjas, like this. However, I think his best villain were two, and one was the cat. And this has nothing to do with the cat female, from the 70s. This was another martial artist that was actually his equal. in martial arts. They could not defeat each other because they were so equal. And he has an interesting story. I'm not gonna give a lot of detail, Bub, because I don't want to ruin in case anybody's reading this stuff.
Fair enough.
But very interesting. And then, of course, we have Minai. And Minai was sent by Fu Manchu as well. And he has a tie to Shang-Chi, a really cool character, I thought, but he was eliminated quickly. But so there's endless amount of product here, of a lot of built-in already enemies that they can use that Marvel has the rights to. And if they use it wisely, they can do a whole nother universe for Shang-Chi, because it's very deep and very rich.
Well, I'm excited. Of all the movies and shows that are coming out in this lineup, that's the one that I'm most optimistic for and most excited for. I guess in part because I'm hoping, after all the Endgame stuff where everyone was so sprawled out and brought together, and then it was like an epic type, every superhero on the planet, I kind of like the idea of a smaller story, more street level story, and less. I don't want to be in space. I want to bring me back down. So hopefully Shang-Chi doesn't end up with some kind of space suit.
No.
Or any Tony Stark tech. If we can keep away from all that kind of stuff, then I'm very excited about that one. We've got a few more people in the chat. We've got let's see, Knights of Old is here. Bad Dad is here. I think Triple C was here. We've got several other people coming in. We want to thank you guys for joining us. Zen Manga is here. Let's see. I'm subbed to Zen Manga. I have to fix that. So thank you guys for coming in and subbing each other up and hitting the like button too. We really appreciate that. Helps us. I don't know what it helps, but I guess it helps do something. So so let's move on.
Okay.
Let's take a look at Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. A lot of people are really excited about this, I think, because it's bringing in some of this multiverse stuff, and there's another title in here that does the same. For me, the first Doctor Strange movie was okay. I thought it was decent. It was hard for me to get past Benedict Cumberbatch's odd accent, his American accent that he was doing. But other than that, I thought his appearances in not in Endgame. What was the one came before Endgame?
Infinity War.
Yeah. I thought his appearance in Infinity War was a standout. I thought he was very well powered and had really stepped up his game since the first movie. So I'm excited for this movie, and I don't know much about the multiverse and how he plays into that. So, and the first one was pretty trippy. So I'm good with this one. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, me too. I mean, to me, the multiverse is an interesting concept, because you can really do so much with it, right? Because you're talking about possible counterparts. You're talking about exploration of other realms with different physical laws or different origins altogether. And of course, you have powerful beings that we know are in those multiverses, the in-betweener, the beyonder, et cetera, are all kind of cosmic type entities, which and you're talking multiverse, I'm only talking about dimensional or parallel ones. You can talk about time displacement, you can talk about space displacement, all kinds of stuff. So it really opens up a whole nother universe, I suppose, to the MCU.
Yeah, and it's also one of the few that are kind of a straight sequel. So a lot of the other ones that are planned are either you have the Thor movie, and we'll talk about that next, I suppose, where that sounds like that's going to be very different than what we've had so far. Right. Or, the Shang-Chi movie's new. A lot of the other properties are new or new team-ups. But it's nice that this is just going to be a straight sequel. And I think one of the only in the bunch. So I'm excited about that. I wasn't a huge Doctor Strange fan in the comics, but I enjoyed reading Doctor Strange because there's so much jargon in Doctor Strange. It's almost like its own universe. Like and if you're a Doctor Strange fan or the book of what's the name of that book? You know which one I'm talking about, that has all the spells in it and that tells all the stories.
The Necronomicon.
If you
Oh,
say so.
you mean the book of the one that he used in the movie?
Yes. What's it called?
Oh,
They did a whole Marvel did a whole series on them.
The Vishanti, is that it? Vishanti?
No, maybe. I don't know. I have to look. I have to find my comics.
The book of Vishanti. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Gray Man comes. Listen, Gray Man knows all this stuff. Trust me.
Love it. So I'm looking forward to that, and I think that there's a lot that can be done with that too. So hopefully, if he gets a third movie, they'll delve into that some more too. I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to move along a little bit if you're good.
Yeah, I'm good. I only want to say that works perfectly for Doctor Strange, because his a lot of his villains are, extra dimensional. Dormammu, Nightmare, the unholy ones. They're out there. They're not necessarily Earth dimensional beings. So that makes sense that he would have some kind of tie into that. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, and I'm excited, and I hope that that's a property that continues on, because he's becoming one of my favorite MCU characters. He wasn't always one of my favorite comic characters, because every time I picked one of his books up, I was lost by page 3. I was like, "Dang, man, this is hard to follow." So, yeah. Let's see. We have the Eternals. Now that's another one that you can't go wrong with Kirby, I guess, when it comes to the comics. I think that one of the things that scares me a little bit about the Eternals is, again, that's almost its own universe. I don't know that I need all of these universes to tie in together. And that Eternals universe is big.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. And you're right, though. It is they although technically they were in Earth 616 continuity, there were very few crossovers in the series. I think the Hulk and maybe one or two others, but generally speaking, they kind of stuck to themselves. In the Kirby run, later on, obviously you had crossovers and things like that. But again, interesting though that they chose. I'm kind of shocked that they chose this as a pretty obscure race in the Marvel universe, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because which we'll talk about, I guess we can talk about this Thor next, but I think that with the Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor for that matter, because Thor is nothing like he is in the comics, and yet nobody cares. Like, I never hear I'm sure there are people, I'll say nobody, and there'll be somebody raging their keyboard tomorrow, but I know that there are people who really agree and don't like the Chris Hemsworth's representation of Thor, the MCU Thor. But that was a character that most people love in the MCU. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not mad at it for being different than the character in the comics, because the Thor character in the comics is a little bit one-dimensional anyway. So it adds a couple of layers to Thor, which is nice. And it kind of takes him as a fish out of water a little bit most of the time. And then they just went bananas in the third one and made it basically a copy of Guardians of the Galaxy, which they had already gone bananas on because no one cared, right? It was a kind of a throwaway property. Yep. So I think that the Eternals is another throwaway property, and it's space related, so they can go as wild as they want to go and kind of catch some more of that Guardians magic all over again. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they've done it before. You're right. But again, to me, it was just somewhat surprising, considering how many properties they have to tap into, and the richness of the storylines that are out there. And most of the storylines that I've seen, maybe one or two, are amalgamations of storylines from back in the 60s. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the Eternals and how they're going to. Are they going to be? Is it going to be a heavy CGI thing, or is it going to be more of like that next plane of existence superiority race thing that that Kirby was kind of alluding to in his series? I'm interested. It's interesting to me. I'm surprised, but I'm interested.
I'm interested too. What's funny is that in order to get me to go see Captain Marvel, they had to perfectly position it in between Avengers movies, to where I felt like if I didn't see it, I might miss something pertinent to the Avengers. I don't know how they're going to perfectly position the Eternals to make me go see it in the theater, other than just being a fan. But I mean, when I look at all these movies coming out and I check my wallet and I put that against potentially buying more Planet Comics,
Wow. We got our priorities straight there, don't we?
I take the whole family to see Eternals, of which none of them care anything about, or I could buy some more comics. So I think that's going to be one that I skip in the theaters. Of all of them, that's one I don't mind if I skip, and then and catch it on when it comes to video, and can pay a fraction of the cost to see it.
Well, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait to see what occurs. If it's something that I find that it's so interesting that I can't wait, then I'll go see it on a matinee or something. But I'm not going to be like first weekend or anything. No way.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next we got. I think this is going to be. Oh, so the last of the movies I think is Black Widow.
Right.
So the Black Widow, I don't know what to say about this. I don't know. I hope that they don't try to de-age Scarlett Johansson in any way. To me, she looked best and I enjoyed her character the most when she was playing backup to Iron Man. I think it was Iron Man 2.
Yes.
She was in, and I thought she did amazing in that. And I really liked her backup play in Captain America 2 also. Winter Soldier. I thought
she was I think the supporting character, Black Widow, is perfect for her. That's her perfect role. And it's not a knock on the character at all, by the way. It's not a knock.
No.
I'm just saying that because of the way that her story and her powers and her spy persona works, it really works perfectly as somebody who kind of like coming off the bench, if that's an analogy that works, right?
I agree. And I think the fact that she does not have any superpowers to speak of, that she's mostly just skill and tech, I think lends her to being a supporting character as well. So this movie I'm not excited about at all. I probably will go see it because in the theaters, because I think my wife will want to see it, and my son, he's 15, so I know he'll want to see it. So it should still be a good movie. I don't have super high hopes. I don't have super low hopes, but I do think that this is one I didn't need. Like it doesn't get me excited. And I really, if they had said, oh, we decided not to make a Black Widow origin story, I said, that sounds fine to me. Any of those origin stories you can leave out for most of this for me.
Right. I mean, to me, I mean, I think that it could be an interesting movie. I'm not saying it isn't, right? It couldn't be. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that considering, again, I know I'm rehashing here. Considering the massive amounts of characters and storylines out there, it seems to me like it's a bit of a reach, right? To at least at this point in time, where they killed her off. I mean, what does that tell you? And then you do a movie. That's kind of a strange kind of progression to then go back and sort of resurrect the dead there. But that's just me.
Yeah, I agree. And I was fine with the way that they ended it. I would have liked to see Black Widow continue in her regular continuity. But if that doesn't work out, that's fine too. I've enjoyed the character, and really of all the characters in the MCU, I think she's only second to Iron Man as far as appearances in other movies. She's been in almost every movie that's been made. So I've seen about as much Black Widow as I need to. So I was okay with that. And same goes for the next one, Loki, which I think this is a show, if I'm not mistaken. This is going to, and they're going to put it on like their streaming service. So, this is another one. He's been in almost every movie too. And it was novel in the beginning. And I am one of those, I like my villains to be villains. Unfortunately, when the villains stay villains, they end up dying at the end of a movie. So, and you never see them again. Mm-hmm. So when a villain can be a little bit more than a villain, sometimes they bring them back and, we go from there. So They make him better, or a hero slash or reluctant hero or something like that. And they've done already that with Loki a lot. So unless this is just going to be a straight up show of Loki being bad, then I'm not interested. But if they're going to make him kind of a quasi hero, I don't want to see that. I only want to see him being just evil and bad and a trickster nonstop for the whole show. Then I would be interested.
Right. Well, even in the comics, though, he was always kind of wishy-washy. I mean, he had a real bad Met on for Thor. Really bad. I mean,
yeah,
he did all kinds of underhanded stuff, but I wouldn't call him one of the most evil guys ever. You know what I mean? He was in it for him and all that, but he wasn't. He had times where he would sort of be an anti-hero, like sometimes, not all the time. But I think I prefer him as that quirky and just mischievous trickster Loki. To me, that is the most interesting and exciting type of character.
Me too.
And not the guy who's like, yeah, he's okay for when you really need him to be okay, he's okay, and when you don't really need him, well, he's kind of bad. I don't go for that. I don't go for that. Let's make him consistent. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. It's a little bit too much back and forth.
Yeah,
I'm not crazy about it. So maybe that'll hold truer. Let's talk about the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Here's another one I didn't need. And it's a shame too, because I don't like what they did with the Winter Soldier, making him good and bad and good and bad. Now, we were talking earlier about their relations to the comics. Now, the Winter Soldier is one of those properties that really he pretty much goes, he's mostly good.
Yeah.
So they were kind of true with him as they were with the comics. He starts off bad, but then for the most part he is good.
Well, he wasn't bad. He was brainwashed.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, he's an antagonist to begin with.
Yes,
and then he kind of switches sides. So they did do well with that. The Falcon is just, to me, this is like the case of two sidekicks having a show together, and I just don't see anything appealing about that. Who's the hero here, and who am I rooting for? I guess I'm rooting for both of them, but to me, Falcon is pretty much a sidekick to Captain America, and the Winter Soldier would be okay with his own series maybe, but I don't know that I need the two of them tied at the hip. I mean, I just don't know what I'm looking at. Is it going to be like a sitcom where they're trying to get the horse out of the apartment before the landlord shows up? Like what? What is this?
I'm assuming, right? I know nothing about this, right? But I'm assuming that because of the tie-in to Captain America, that they're going to sort of, I mean, I'm talking about Steve Rogers Captain America, not Falcon Captain America, all right? Make that clear, right? Mm-hmm. I'm assuming they're going to sort of, take up his legacy and be that hero for the masses, for the justice, for the democracy, that kind of thing, I could be wrong, because again, this is just Metarog throwing stuff out in the wind. But to me, if I was in that position, that's what I would do. I would take up a legacy, and it's a tough one to follow, a very tough one to follow. And again, Winter Soldier wouldn't even be alive if it wasn't for Steve Rogers. He was the only one who believed in him, And Falcon was kind of like, the guy he strung along and made a hero. So that tie-in is very strong to that type of heroism. So that's what I would think it would be.
Well, that would be okay. And we got Heroes to Icon saying Winter Soldier is one of the MCU's best, which I think it is. It's definitely Captain America 2 is one of the best movies, in my opinion. It says Falcon is now Winter Soldier's sidekick, but I think Falcon is more of the Captain America character. So you would think whoever's holding the shield is kind of, more the leader. But
yeah, I didn't read the comics when Falcon became Captain America. I was out of it by then. But it doesn't mean that they are necessarily, a hero and a sidekick. They could be partners, like Luke Cage and Iron Fist or whatever. But
that's true.
But I don't know. I kind of agree with you in a sense that that's kind of an odd thing to put out there. Again, there's so many other things that they could be doing, but obviously they must have some kind of testing that they've done, and they find that those two characters are going to be appealing somehow. So maybe we have
Well,
no idea what we're talking about.
I don't trust their testing. And we kind of glossed over Thor a little bit. Love and Thunder. I absolutely hate the title. I could not hate the title anymore. I hate the design of it. I hate the words in it. All of it I hate. Now they're talking about Jane Foster being Thor in this one potentially, and that I'm okay with, kind of. Because if all they're going to give me is the Thor that they gave me in Endgame, keep it away. I don't want to see that Thor on my screen at any point. Now, if they're going to return him back to actually being Thor, then that sounds great. When I see a title like Love and Thunder, I'm out. I'll go see it, but I expect to be disappointed in that movie.
When I first saw that, I thought it was kind of maybe a joke. I thought, okay, they're going to change it up. That's just a joke, right? But I'm totally okay with Jane Foster as Thor because she goes back to even in the What Ifs, where she wielded the hammer, and certainly in the comics there was a storyline there. I'm totally okay with that. I think that's a good idea, but are they going to give it like a some kind of romantic twist? I mean, is it? I don't know. I mean, it's odd, just an odd kind of combination there. There used to be a storyline called Blood and Thunder, which was with Warlock and all that.
That sounds better.
I thought maybe that's what they were alluding to, but I have no idea what they're up to. That to me is a total curveball. I have no idea what's going on there.
Well, it looks like DS has found enough Wi-Fi to get into it with Lady Fantastic, because between the two of them, DS doesn't want Jane Foster to be Thor at all, and Lady Fantastic thinks that Jason Aaron's run on Lady Thor was fantastic. So There you go. So I think, again, when we talk about bringing it to the comics, I think that was a very popular. I mean, she's not alone in that. That was a very popular Thor run. With her, but I think part of what made it popular was that it ended, and I don't want to give a lot of spoilers. If anyone, if you haven't read that run or don't know anything about the Jane Foster Thor run, I do recommend that you read it. It's a very touching story, if nothing else. It's a tough one, and if that's what they're doing with this, I'm 100% for it. But if that's not what they're doing with this, and they're going to do any other storyline other than that one, then I'm calling shenanigans, and I would rather have Chris Hemsworth on a diet as Thor. So that's
Oh man, yeah. I think that has potential. I mean, because of, again, if we okay, let's put it this way: if now we know that Captain America is worthy, because in the old days, the only one who could wield it was Thor. Nobody else could pick up that Mjolnir. Okay, but now we have Captain America picking it up, and Uncle Jed's second cousin over in Flatbush picking it up. So why not Jane Foster, especially since she has been such a long history with Donald Blake and Thor, and she has now been engrossed into that atmosphere, into that universe. She knows what it takes because she's been to Asgard. It makes sense to me. I mean, it could work, but if they're going to make some kind of romantic comedy out of it, I'm out. I'm totally out. Because that to me is really just taking something and trying to go into a genre which they have no basis to go into. And to me, I think they're making a mistake if that's the case.
Yes, and I agree. And a lot of people akinning what that Portland will probably only do one movie, and that this is akin to some of the Star Wars stuff and the Kathleen Kennedy politics of it too. So there's a lot that feeds into this movie, but actually all of that feeds into my hopes, because I hope that Natalie Portman only does one movie. I hope that we only get one Lady Thor movie, and I hope that they follow the storyline that's in that run of comics. So that all gives me a lot of hope. And for it to be a very emotional movie, I'm good with that too. So I just don't think the title Love and Thunder helps me. That makes me think it's going to be more of a campy, slapsticky, like you said, romantic comedy type movie. And I'm not down for that. Like, I don't want to see, Thor's hammer at the foot of a bed with a pair of high heels. I'm not looking for that. you
Well,
know.
well, again, if who knows what is in their, their minds right now, right? I mean, they may change their, like they didn't they have an Inhumans movie originally,
Yeah,
and then they moved it to TV, and that was a major bomb. So they're just sort of clean, they did the Pontius Pilate with that one, So, by the time it gets to that point, who knows what it'll morph into, because they'll get more information as time goes on. But
yeah.
the title, I think, is it's going to be rethought.
Hey, Knights of Old's making a good point. Really at this point, there haven't been too many bad Marvel movies. There might be ones I like less than others, but for the most part, they've all been pretty solid movies. And I can go through a long list of movies that I've watched in the last year that all really sucked. I mean, just terrible. Like I want to go to the front counter and demand my money back for me, my family, and every person that has to listen to me complain about this movie. And none of those were Marvel movies. So,
right. The only thing I would say is that, and maybe I'm alone here, but the X-Men movies, some of those to me were so boring. Maybe it's just me, but I couldn't get into most. I mean, I think First Class was okay, and I think Days of Future Past had okay parts, but the first 2 or 3, God, I was so bored. I only saw those once, and that was it, one and done. I've seen all the rest of the Marvel movies at least 5 times.
Yeah,
so I agree. I think I'm an outlier there, but to me, I don't know. I just didn't get it. I just didn't find them at all compelling.
Yeah, I think it could be very different. We'll move on from this one because everybody in the chat seems to be getting pretty hot under the collar. So
that's good. That's good.
I know.
Remember what we said. There's no bad publicity.
It is going to be divisive. It'll probably not be as divisive as Captain Marvel was, because we're already familiar with her as Jane Foster, and everyone kind of likes her as Jane Foster. I know I did. So I'm already, she's a likable person, it would seem, where I guess Brie Larson kind of suffered in that for some people. So all that aside, I'm hopeful for the movie. I just don't like the title. The title scares me.
The title has to go, definitely.
Yeah. Last but not least, we have What If, the What If run. And this is going to be an animated series with original voice actors reprising their roles for these animated features. And I think these are some of those kind of contract extenders type things where they want to get these guys, they want to get everybody in a booth and secure them as these characters going forward in anything other than the big screen. I can understand that. I'm good with that. And what's funny is that talking about the Thor movie, the What If Jane Foster book heated up this week and has gone crazy, which is funny because I remember when Jane Foster was announced in the movies and when they were talking about that the other book spiked, the other first appearance of Jane Foster as Thor spiked, and everyone kind of discounted the What If books and said, What If isn't really canon, no one really cares about a What If books, and none of the What If books really got any attention. And then all of a sudden, this happens, and now people are interested in treating the What If books as if they're canon because there's going to be a What If series. So This is interesting. I don't really get too excited about the animated stuff anyway, but being voiced by the actors in the MCU does intrigue me a little extra. And if they're putting it on their main marquee, because there's lots of little Marvel animated movies that used to come out just a few years ago, kind of like DC puts out their animated movies.
Yeah.
A few years ago, Marvel put out a ton of those animated movies, and they really haven't much lately. And I think that it's because they're focused on the MCU, and having this What If series with animation, it could be pretty good. I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think animation is actually a good way of doing it because, again, you're sort of separating it from reality, right? And you're talking what ifs. They could be, just all kinds of creative, offbeat, off the wall, crazy kind of things that people like that they wanted to know, like, what if Captain America got stuck in the past and never made it to the front to give the shield to to Falcon, or something like that. They could do all kinds of crazy things. It's a creative outlet there, and like you said, it's also good to to have like the smaller and the supporting characters, give them a little shine here and there. But the original What If series, to me, I have them all. I have the full run on both of them because I found them fascinating. Because as a comic nerd, you ask yourself these questions, So now they got answered.
Yeah, and so my What If collection is fair. I've got maybe 30 of them or so. And for me, my What Ifs is I treat it just like you said. If it was a question that I thought was interesting, I bought the book. So like this one, say Ghost Rider, Spider-Woman, Captain Marvel. What if they were villains? What if they stayed villains? I was like, oh man, you're right. That sounds great. So I bought the book, to find out the answer. And what's funny to me about most of like I said, I've only read not near as many as you. So correct me if I'm wrong on here, but I don't think you will. But anyway, I think that most of the What If books tended to err on the rougher side. Like they almost made you wish that this didn't happen. Like most of the time, most of the What If books were, what if this happened? And then the end answer was, it would be terrible. Aren't you glad we didn't do this in canon? You're like, yeah, I agree. That would be bad. Yes, characters would completely change their personalities. The worst thing possible for characters would occur. And you'd be like, yes, you're right. What if the answer is it would be bad, so let's not do it. We're so glad that you keep the characters the way they are. And, but now the modern books are very much what ify, and, changing characters and changing their personalities and changing their backstories in some cases and retconning things. And instead of it being the worst thing would happen, it's, it could be better or, just as good at least. So it's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. They were kind of gloom and doomish for the most part. But every once in a while you'd find one with happy endings, and that would kind of be like the like the diamond in the rough that you would find there. But to me, like this one here, what if Captain America hadn't vanished during World War II? What if he was never, in that block of ice there in the Arctic, and he had diffused that bomb? Bucky would be alive. He would be much older now in present day. There's an endless amount of possibilities that you could explore with a what if. And animated means I think they could make it quicker, and they can do all kinds of effects. It could be anything goes. So I think it's a very good idea. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've been saying we should be doing a what if series 10 years ago. I said that's something they should be starting to explore, because it's not in continuity, and it gives them a continual presence in another media. But what do I know? 10 years later to come through.
Well, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about things that, if they follow to the comics in the way that we hope that they will, these will be very exciting for us as comic collectors to see some of these things come to life. And it's a whole lot easier to bring some of them to life on an animated format than it is with, CGI and full-blown movies. It's harder to get people, I think, invested in a full-blown movie than it is in a one-time animated type cartoon,
Now, let me ask you though: is this going to be? I don't know. I didn't see anything, so forgive me. I don't really, watch a lot of the news and stream things like that. But is this going to be like on a streaming service like DC, or is this going to be on network TV, or what?
I think it's going to be on a streaming service. So,
okay.
I think part of the problem with that is, and I'm just going to throw this out there. Now we've talked about all of them to some extent. Could this potentially be the beginning of what people have feared will be superhero fatigue? We had the Netflix shows that didn't cause any fatigue. It seemed, if anything, it just kept people interested. But now when we're getting so far away from the core properties of Marvel, it worries me a little bit. Just as a fan, I'm like, where's my? So I'm not going to have another X-Men, and I know that they need to cool down the X-Men in order to reboot them or whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
But as a comic collector and a comic book character lover, I'm looking at it like, wait a minute, I'm missing some people here that I really care about. You know, you're telling me I'm not going to see the Hulk again probably for 2 years, or is he going to pop up here and there? I'm not going to see, you know, if I see Spider-Man, he'll be in more, you know, whatever he's doing now. I won't even get into that. But where are all my X-Men? I'm not going to see any mutants for 2 years. I'm like, dang, man, those are some of my favorite characters and some of the biggest, you know, you got the Hulk and Wolverine, each are not going to have their own titled movie, or X-Men for that matter, for 2 years. Those are two of the top 3 characters in the Marvel Universe. You know, and then you got the rights to them. You got the rights to the Fantastic Four. I can understand cooling down the X-Men. You don't have to cool down the Fantastic Four. Everyone hated the last movie, so except for DS Comics. Everyone with good taste in movies hated the last Fantastic Four movie so bad that they should be very eager to get another one. So, you know.
Well, but Bob, I think they may want a little bit of a cooling off period so people forget how because it's not just that one. I mean, the Fantastic Four movies have been, for the most part, disappointing. So I think that there's a kind of a stigma at this point. So they're probably going to be building up to it. Like everybody's like, oh, well, Doctor Doom, you got to show Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom has been in every other thing, you know, and not well done. So maybe they're waiting for that memory to fade somewhat, and then start the ball rolling, because Fantastic Four has amazing potential. I don't care what anybody says. That is just, to me, I'm super excited. If they do a well done Fantastic Four movie, it can blow all of these Marvel movies out of the water.
Yeah, I think if they do it, and I think I didn't need them for them to give me 3 years without the Fantastic Four, because it's already been, I think, 2 years since that movie. So that'd be 5 years without a Fantastic Four movie, and I think it would be great to throw one out there. You know, I've heard John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, which I think would be great casting. I don't know. There's still so much I want to see from them that I haven't seen any of it. I haven't seen anything good from them. So, first family of Marvel, bring them to the screen. We talked a little bit about Blade 2, and that's another thing that they kind of teased. So, you know, Fantastic Four, Blade, and X-Men, they're kind of teasing to come in a couple of years. Well, you know, you could have definitely given me Blade sooner than that. And you could definitely give me Fantastic Four and the X-Men sooner than that. And I would give you the entire slate of shows and movies that they've just announced, save maybe Shang-Chi. I'd like to keep that one. But you could take the rest back and give me an X-Men movie, a Fantastic Four movie, and a Blade movie, and I'm happy. You know, that sounds great to me.
I generally agree with you. You know, again, I think they're trying to make that memory kind of, well, you know, and people, I think people are more educated now than ever, and they know that, you know, the Fantastic Four that were done by, what was it, Universal or Sony, whatever, who the heck had the property?
Yeah.
Is one thing, but to get it in the hands of, you know, the Marvel producers and directors is a whole, it's almost like it's like a whole nother series. It's like rebooting, right? A totally new reboot. So I see that happening, and I think that people are a little more educated and a little more cognizant of that. But I think they still have so many projects already in line that they probably didn't want to put all of them in the back burner and get all these things, that all the writers that they've been working on it, all the directors they put on it, and all that, you know, on the back burner. Because, Bob, they're already, everything they touch is, they're like Midas. Everything they touch is gold, you know?
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, that's true.
So why go through all those, that consternation, that extra effort, that possible, you know, that possibly alienating, you know, some of the people in Hollywood. But, you know, they play through with what their game plan is. I'm sure very soon after, Fantastic Four and X-Men are coming. Those are two huge, massive properties, and they're going to prime the pump with those for sure. But they're just They're taking their time. They're waiting for that, for the, the bad taste in the mouth to go out of those other fans like me and the X-Men, right? And then when that new one comes in, everybody's going to be so hyped that it's going to be off the charts.
Oh yeah, they're mentioning Wanda and WandaVision as another added thing there, and that's another one. I like the Vision as a supporting character. I think he was underutilized because from the comics, the Vision is much more dynamic and powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what's her name? I want to say Scarlet. I know she's Scarlet Witch, but I forget the name of the. She's one of the Olsens, right?
Oh, Elizabeth
Olsen. I think she's my favorite female character in the MCU, hands down my favorite. And it's funny because I would have never thought that prior to that, but as I've watched the movies, she's my favorite female character in the MCU. So I could take more of her, and I could take Vision done well. So that one doesn't really. I'm actually looking forward to that one a little bit. So I'll take it.
Is that television?
Yeah, that's going to be a show, and so is Hawkeye. They're bringing in Hawkeye as a show too.
Yeah. Well, television is a little bit a different dynamic because you have a lot more control. You can pull that without a lot of, financial backlash. Unlike a movie, which when you started that ball rolling, forget it. You're in for millions and millions. But WandaVision, is that are they going to do a family kind of thing with them being married or something like they did in the comics?
I really don't know. I think it's one of those that, and we got some people in the chat saying that they didn't care for the way Scarlet Witch was portrayed in the movies. It is very different than the comics, but I happen to have liked the character anyway. Sometimes that happens. They don't, just like Thor, they're not very true to the comics, but I like him anyway. I like this version of the character just fine,
Yeah, everybody was different to a certain degree. I mean, you have to remember in the comics, you have different writers, you have different creators taking it. So they take it in different directions. So the movies is just, to me, another writer, another direction, another arc, in a different medium, of course. But, everybody's a little different. I happen to, I especially in the Avengers and Infinity War and Endgame, I thought that the parts that she had were a very good character, and she, let me tell you, she is extremely powerful, and that was portrayed in Endgame.
Yes, finally,
when she is motivated, get out of the way, because she can didn't she, like in the comics, like totally sterilize a whole race or something? I mean, she can do amazing stuff. So you have to be careful with her. And if it wasn't for somebody getting in the way, I think she would have had Thanos there at Infinity War.
Yeah, and so Knights of Old is saying he'd take a Punisher season 3 over all the new TV shows. I think that's another thing that's a little disappointing, is that we're going to see those characters backburnered for a while too. You're not going to see Daredevil for a while. You're not going to see Punisher for a while. You're not going to see Luke Cage. You're not going to see. I think that's where that oh shoot, I knew his name earlier. Mahershala Ali or something like that. Yeah. The guy that's going to play Blade. I think he was in Luke Cage.
Okay. I didn't see the Luke Cage series, so I didn't know.
And I think that not having. So the way that the Netflix series worked it, and I'm interested to see if Disney will do the same thing with their streaming service. But the way the Netflix series worked it is that the events that occurred in the MCU did impact the events that occurred in the Netflix compartmentalized shows of the MCU. However, nothing in the shows crossed back over to the movies. So events that occurred in the movies were referenced in the shows, but nothing that ever happened in the shows were referenced in the movies. And I think that it'd be interesting to see, because they're using the exact same characters and the exact same actors and actresses to play those characters in the shows, whether they kind of try and force people to subscribe to these shows in order to not miss out any key information that might be referenced later in the movies. So I'm interested to see what they do with that, because with Netflix it was very separated, and with a unidirectional approach to ripples. So interesting to see what they'll do with that.
Now but it's different. Like an Agent of Shields, that did go back and forth, as far as I remember.
I don't remember anything happening in Agent of Shield that affected anything in Endgame or any of the other MCU movies.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I gave up on Agent of Shield like after the 3rd season, but they definitely, yeah. I mean again, it was so boring. I mean, I guess I just have a short attention span. But man, in order to get any action going in that show, I mean, you had to like throw stuff at the TV because it just moved so plodding, But they definitely had a lot of like the aftermath of Dark World. They showed them cleaning up and doing something like they found a little something of that Icar stuff. Anyway, but that's and that's news too, right, Bob? That was canceled.
Yeah. Yep. And they canceled X Factor too, I think.
X Factor.
And yeah, they were going to do X.
No, there was an X Factor.
Yep, they were going to do X Factor, and they were going to do X Force too, and both those got canceled.
But they never. But they haven't been shown.
No. I'm just saying that there's, in addition to canceling actual shows, right, that were on, they also have canceled projects. So a lot of shuffling has occurred here, and this is kind of after everything's been shuffled, this is what we got for the next couple of years.
Right.
And maybe they'll add something and surprise us, but I doubt it.
I mean, I'm shocked that Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. lasted this long. I'm totally shocked. I saw a random episode every season, and I was like, I couldn't keep my eyes open, really. And you know me, I mean, I like involved plots and all this, but my God, it moves so slow. I mean, it was like a snail in an oil slick. I mean, it just got nowhere. So
I agree. I gave up after season 3 too. It's very hard to follow and keep with it, and I didn't care. Like when the end of the show would happen, I never felt like, oh man, I can't wait to see the next one. Nope, I didn't care. Like whatever, I could miss it and catch it up in 3 weeks and try to, and that's what ended up happening. I ended up having to binge watch them, and I would fall asleep on them. So I gave up on that.
That was the best cure for insomnia I've ever seen. I mean, really bad. Really bad. But,
well, Roger,
I'm glad I'm not alone. I'm glad I'm not alone.
No, you're not, of course. You're never alone.
Well, you never know, right? Because I'd never mentioned that to anybody, I don't think. I sort of see that in a vacuum. So I could be an outlier, but to me, I was just in shock that was still on. I was absolutely in shock.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Well, I think we did all right in DS's absence. Glad he was here in the chat with us to kick people around and be as salty. We appreciate that. But I want to thank everybody in the chat for joining us tonight, and of course, Roger, thanks for not ditching me like DS did. That was so mean, wasn't it? He was so mean to me. So mean. And we're gonna get Lady Fantastic on. We'll work out with her schedule. I don't know where she's located, but she sounds like she might be on the West Coast. I'm just gonna guess that.
I thought it more Midwest to me.
Perhaps. I'm gonna say not on Eastern Time Zone. That's where I'm throwing it out there. Not on Eastern Time Zone. So we'll see how that works out with her schedule. We'll get her on
Nashville. Here. She's in Nashville. I got
You're
her.
Kidding me.
She's in Nashville. Central Time Zone. Yep.
Oh, Lady Fantastic, you're in my neck of the woods, where I'm like not even 2 hours from you. So cool. I go to Nashville probably 4 or 5 times a year. So I'll have to do some hunting. So good deal. All right. Well, we'll get her on the show, and we'll have a few more guests. I know I've been slacking on booking guests lately. So I'll get back on that. And I haven't heard Boo from Deadpool 2323 in a while. I know his schedule's been crazy.
Yeah, he changed jobs and shifts. So and his wife.
He's got like 6 kids or something too, right?
He's got 4, but two very little ones.
Yeah.
And so he's when his wife's not home, he's home, so he has to take care of the kids. So he's got a tough schedule right now. Hopefully that'll change soon because I really love to have him on the show again.
Absolutely. Everyone's telling Lady Fantastic she needs to move. Get away from me. I tell you. And I hunt, like one of my main hunting spots is about an hour in, like it would be an hour from her and an hour from me, like in between, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, everybody be good, be safe. We'll catch you next week on No Faces Comic Chat. We hope that this has been fun and informative, and if not, at least one of the other, whichever one you prefer. How about that?
and or
right, fun and or informative.
Yeah.
And so Roger's got to go leak the dog or whatever he calls it.
Park the dog.
Park the dog. Park the dog.
It's only been a year, Bub. You should know by now.
I'm working on it. Well, you didn't used to park the dog when you were in Florida. Now, only since you moved, you parked the dog. It's a new thing,
Bub?
I think.
Okay.
Is that right?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Okay. All right. Well, we'll catch you all real soon, and we'll see you next week on the No Faces Comic Chat. Roger, say your goodbyes.
All right. Be blessed to be back, everybody. Thanks again. Awesome chat. You guys are the best. That's period. Exclamation point and another exclamation point. Bye.
Thank you, Roger. And DS isn't here to tell you all to goodbye and do your homework, which I like that one. Do your homework. You'll save more money and you'll be more informed. Do your homework. And I'll tell everybody to get out there and read a comic. And if you have these What If comics, crack those open, man. They got great, fun stories in there. So, and we'll catch you next time on the No Faces Comic Chat. Good night, everybody.